After flames tore through Fujairah's oil hub, forces linked to Mojtaba issue a stark warning to one of Donald Trump's key Arab allies. One wrong move, that's the message from Tehran, as the UAE finds itself in Iran's crosshairs amid rising tensions with Washington. Iran blames what it calls US Adventurism for the Fujairah strike, questioning the success of Trump's so-called freedom strategy. Following what critics call a failure of Project Freedom, Donald Trump appears to tread cautiously after the attack on the UAE. The UAE faced Iranian fire just as Donald Trump announced efforts to assist stranded ships in the Gulf. Tensions escalate in the Strait of Hormuz, as tankers linked to South Korea and the UAE are struck by Iranian forces. Escalation is spreading across the Gulf region, with Iran issuing strong and direct warnings to its regional adversaries amid rapidly rising tensions. Tehran has made it clear it will retaliate against the United Arab Emirates if it takes any action Iran considers unwise or provocative. According to Tasnim news agency, Iran warned that if the UAE becomes what it called a plaything of Israel, it will directly target Emirati interests. An Iranian military source said, and I quote, "No official threat has so far been announced by the Emiratis. But if the Emiratis become a plaything of Israel and make a wrong move, they will learn a lesson they will never forget. If the UAE takes any unwise action, all its interests will become targets for Iran, and no part of Emirati facilities will be safe. The UAE knows it is sitting in a very fragile glass house, and insecurity is absolute poison for it. If it wants to repeat the mistake of the 40-day war, we will completely abandon restraint and treat this Zionist nest as part of the Zionist regime." Unquote. Tehran has framed the Fujairah incident as a retaliatory move, blaming what it describes as ongoing US adventurism in the region. Iranian state media claims the Fujairah strike was not a pre-planned operation, insisting it was a reaction triggered by US actions. Officials in Tehran say the incident resulted from US actions allegedly aimed at creating a passage for what they call illegal transit of ships. These warnings come after strikes linked to Iran hit Emirati territory, intensifying fears that the conflict could widen across the region. An alleged Iranian drone attack triggered a major fire at a petrol complex in Fujairah, raising alarm over critical infrastructure security. The UAE has claimed that Iran launched 4 cruise missiles toward its territory, although Tehran has neither confirmed nor acknowledged the claim. According to Channel 12, a UAE official conveyed to Israel that the country does not intend to remain silent in response to these attacks. Both the UAE and South Korea reported strikes on ships passing through the crucial Strait of Hormuz on May 4, adding to concerns over maritime security. Emirati leadership has strongly condemned the attacks on civilian areas and signaled that it is prepared to respond if necessary, raising the stakes in an already volatile regional situation. This development highlights a rapidly hardening alignment among Gulf states and Israel, as regional powers appear increasingly united in their stance against Iran's actions. Qatar's emir has also joined the growing wave of condemnation, denouncing Iranian actions and urging all parties to exercise restraint and move immediately toward de-escalation. The Gulf Cooperation Council has likewise condemned Iran's behavior, calling it irresponsible and dangerous, and warning that it poses a serious threat to regional security and stability. Jassim Mohammed al-Budaiwi said, and I quote, "Strikes represent a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of a member state of the Cooperation Council. Targeting the United Arab Emirates is unacceptable and condemned by all standards, and reflects an escalatory approach that disregards the rules of international law and the principles of good neighborliness. We call on the international community to assume its responsibilities to stop these repeated Iranian attacks and to put an immediate end to the irresponsible actions that undermine regional and international peace and security." Unquote. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has condemned Iran's reported missile and drone attacks targeting the United Arab Emirates, posting her response on the platform X and calling for restraint and de-escalation. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump stopped short of labeling the incident a direct violation of the ceasefire, according to reports. Trump also warned Iran that the best outcome for all sides would be maintaining the ceasefire and preventing further escalation in the region. The United Arab Emirates, a key US partner in the region, has strongly criticized Iran over an alleged attack on one of its crude oil tankers. Abu Dhabi claimed that a state-linked oil vessel was targeted by Iranian drones while navigating through the Strait of Hormuz. The tanker, reportedly operated by ADNOC, was said to be empty at the time of the incident on May 3. According to the UAE Foreign Ministry, 2 Iranian drones were involved in the strike as the vessel transited the strategic waterway. The UAE has also called for the complete and unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz to ensure uninterrupted maritime movement. Officials in Abu Dhabi accused Iran's naval forces of engaging in coercive tactics and described the actions as a form of maritime piracy. UAE Foreign Ministry said, and I quote, "This attack constitutes a flagrant violation of UN Security Council Resolution 2817, which affirmed the importance of freedom of navigation and rejected the targeting of commercial vessels or the obstruction of international maritime routes." The ministry emphasized that targeting commercial shipping and using the Strait of Hormuz as a tool of economic coercion or blackmail represents acts of piracy by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps and constitutes a direct threat to the stability of the region, its peoples, and global energy security. The UAE further stressed the need for Iran to halt these unprovoked attacks, ensure its full commitment to an immediate cessation of all hostilities, and the complete and unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz in order to safeguard regional security and maintain the stability of the global economy and trade. End quote. A senior official from Abu Dhabi also described Iran as a continuing threat to stability across the Middle East. Presidential advisor Anwar Gargash made these remarks following the reported attack on the oil tanker. The advisor said, and I quote, "The Iranian aggression continues unabated, with acts of maritime piracy targeting a national tanker affiliated with ADNOC as it transited the Strait of Hormuz. The UAE stance remains steadfast in rejecting aggression and upholding freedom of navigation in this vital international passage. These attacks underscore that the Iranian threat to the security and stability of the region persists and cannot be ignored." End quote. Meanwhile, authorities in the UAE have issued precautionary alerts urging residents to remain vigilant amid rising tensions. The Interior Ministry reportedly sent out warnings across major cities including Dubai and Sharjah regarding potential missile threats. Residents were advised to seek immediate shelter in the event of any emergency situation. Reports also claimed that Iran launched 4 cruise missiles toward the UAE during the escalation. According to available information, 3 of the missiles were intercepted over territorial waters, while 1 fell into the sea. Donald Trump has announced the launch of Project Freedom, a UN-led initiative aimed at helping dozens of merchant ships stranded in and around the Strait of Hormuz, starting from May 4. Trump described the operation as a humanitarian gesture intended to assist neutral country vessels and their crews caught in the war zone, many of which are running low on supplies while waiting for safe passage. However, U.S. officials later clarified to outlets such as the Wall Street Journal that Project Freedom would not involve direct naval escorts in the way his initial remarks implied. Instead, the White House outlined the creation of a maritime coordination cell that will identify and share safe routes through the strait, clear of mines and high-risk areas, while coordinating with commercial shipping lines and allied navies. This signals a more limited, advisory role for the U.S. military than the image of warships physically shepherding tankers through the choke point that Trump's announcement initially suggested. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways, so that they can freely and ably get on with their business. Many of these ships are running low on food, and everything else necessary for large-scale crews to stay on board in a healthy and sanitary manner." Unquote. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has confirmed that its forces will begin supporting Project Freedom from May 4, integrating the initiative into its broader regional maritime security posture. CENTCOM has framed the mission as critical for both regional security and global economic stability, given that the Strait of Hormuz normally carries roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil and LNG traffic. The command says more than 100 land and sea-based aircraft, including maritime patrol planes, fighters, and surveillance platforms, will provide surveillance, protection, and rapid response capabilities along the agreed safe corridors. Multi-domain unmanned systems, such as drones and unmanned surface vessels, will also be deployed to monitor mine-like threats, detect suspicious boats, and enhance maritime domain awareness without fully committing large warships. Around 15,000 U.S. service members across the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman are expected to contribute to Project Freedom, mainly in support, logistics, and intelligence roles, underscoring the scale of the operation even if direct combat is being avoided. Meanwhile, Iran has warned that any US intervention in the Strait of Hormuz could be interpreted as a violation of the ceasefire framework, escalating diplomatic and military tensions. Lawmaker Ibrahim Azizi, head of the Iranian Parliament's Foreign Policy Committee, stated that any move by the US Navy into the strait under the guise of freedom of navigation would trigger serious consequences. Ibrahim Azizi said, and I quote, "Any American interference in the new maritime regime of the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a violation of the ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf would not be managed by Trump's delusional posts. No one would believe blame game scenarios." Unquote. Trump, however, has warned that any attempt to interfere with the operation would be dealt with forcefully, suggesting that the United States is prepared to respond militarily if its role in the Strait of Hormuz is challenged. Axios reports that Israel secretly deployed an Iron Dome battery and IDF troops to operate it on UAE territory early in the Iran war. 2 Israeli officials and 1 US official told Axios this was the first time Iron Dome and its crews had ever been deployed abroad to defend a third country. That move marked the first ever Iron Dome deployment outside Israel and the US, turning the Emirati desert into a live testbed for Israel's flagship shield. One Israeli official said the UAE-based battery intercepted dozens of Iranian missiles aimed at Emirati targets, adding another layer to the Gulf's defense. The system was reportedly run by IDF personnel stationed on UAE soil, meaning Israeli soldiers were directly defending a Gulf monarch's airspace for the first time. Officials say the deployment was greenlit after a direct call between Benjamin Netanyahu and UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed, sealing the deal leader to leader. It was not just the famous Iron Dome batteries that went to the UAE. A new report says Israel also shipped a cutting-edge iron beam laser shield during Iran's massive strike. According to reporting cited from the Financial Times, Israel sent a version of its Iron Beam laser defense system to the UAE to help counter incoming Iranian drones and rockets. The system is designed to fire high-energy laser beams that vaporize short-range rockets, mortars, and drones before they can reach cities, bases, or critical infrastructure. This deployment is described as one of the first major wartime defense links between Israel and the UAE since they normalized ties under the Abraham Accords. One regional official told reporters that the move showed the value of being Israel's friend when a conflict erupts and missile sirens start to wail.